part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
The 1-1 pitch. A swing and a drive to deep right. Away back. Goal!
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first edition of the Guardians of the Land MLB podcast. I am your host this year, John Telich, longtime sportscaster in Cleveland, Ohio, and followed Cleveland baseball for many, many years. And delighted that the first guest, the inaugural guest, is one of those smiling faces that you see each and every time that you tune in to watch Guardians baseball. One of the outstanding young analysts in baseball, and just does a tremendous job with the broadcast. A longtime friend of mine, Mr. Andre Knott. Andre, how are you doing in sunny, warm Arizona?
I'm doing well. Thank you for letting me be the first of many great guests that I'm sure that you will get on this podcast. Spring training is unlike any other. You know, in football, you have training camp, and everybody's excited. And NBA kind of no one goes to their training camps, but baseball usually gets us all excited because it means back where you're at, spring is on the horizon, and we have better weather and better moments.
You are down there with family for a while as you get ready for the team to kind of finish up spring training and get ready to go to Seattle. And you've had a chance to do these games for many years now, Andre. And I think to work with Terry Francona has to be one of the true blessings that you've been able to have in your career.
No doubt. No doubt. Absolutely. I'm glad you say that. I think when you take jobs, you don't think about the manager or head coach that often because you're excited to have the job. But because I've been able to have a long enough career, I truly have a respect and understanding that it's one of the best things that's happened in my career is be able to cross paths with Terry Francona, not only be able to cover him, ask questions of him daily. You know, I talk to my wife every day, and there's many a days where I can't figure out the right questions to ask her. And then with Tito, I've got to talk to him, daily. Sometimes, I talk to him daily for sure, but twice a day they're recorded on television and radio, and you try to, you talk around things that he doesn't want to talk about or things that he wants to talk about. And it's been a true godsend considering some of the other people that I've worked around, not to put anyone down. It's been a godsend to be around Terry Francona and to be up close and personal with a guy that we all know will be in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame when he hangs up his cleats and puts away his box of bubble gum. He's truly a great leader. He's a great leader of men, but he's really taught me, in all honesty, JT, he's taught me how to be a better father, a better husband, a better son. Just what it means to kind of take away your own ego and pump up the people around you makes your life so much more better. And I think he's done that in baseball in such a unique way where ego is so important and you need to believe in yourself and you need to think that you're the greatest when you're in a sport. And that's the one thing about baseball that I've really learned. And I played the sport and I've loved the sport, but a lot of these guys constantly tell me baseball is about, it's a game of failure, and the guys that deal with failure best, the guys that succeed the best. And I think Tito's got the perfect personality to help guys that know that they're going to struggle 70% of the time, even if they're an all-star.
Has he changed much in the years that you have been around him, or has it always been kind of the constant approach to the game and how he deals with his players?
Great question. I would say the balance of who Tito is will never change. And I think he's found that being a 36-year-old managing in Philadelphia and having his mailbox set on fire and getting followed home by the Fanatics of Philly to going to Boston and bringing a World Series home there and being, it's crazy. We go to Boston and we all know the end of his story in Boston. It didn't go the way he wanted it to go. It wasn't storybook. But I think many people there, when he comes, it's still like, it's like riding in with Paul Revere almost, he's looked at as this guy of just, there's times where Boston fans can be down dirty, but they love them some Terry Francona to this day. And it's really cool to watch. But the main thing I would say, and this is why I say that he's helped me in my normal life, he's cut a lot of the rules out, JT. A lot of the rules of life and the rules of the game are really simple. He simplifies things. And the thing I will say he will never change about, and I think I love about him, and I think his players love about him, and I think the organization loves, there's three basic rules. Be on time, respect your teammates, and respect the game. If you follow those three edicts, if you follow those three things, to him, there'll be no problem. and handling things. They're always very honest. DeMarlo Hill, his bench coach, who follow along. Millsy, who was his best friend way back to '78. DeMarlo's right in that same elk. I kind of love it. One comparison I can make is when you travel with the team, there's always what is the team attire? What can you wear? What can you not wear? And I've been on the Browns playing. I've been on the Cavaliers playing. I've been on the Guardians playing. And it's really simple. Tito does not care because he doesn't like dressing up, and it's a small thing. You know what I mean? So it's like just show up. Don't miss the plane because we're going to leave your butt if you're not on time. And it seems so simple, right, JT? But I think a lot of times, especially in the world that we live in with social media, and I remember when Francisco Lind, and I'm glad you asked this question because it just makes me think about. I know Tito's old school, and I remember when Lindor came up. He had the smile and he very jovial and a little bit different. And I remember asking Tito, I was like, "Hey man, does it bother you that he's?" And he goes, "Hell no." He goes, "It bothers me if he's sitting in the locker room and he's thinking of ways to celebrate." But he's like, if it's natural and it's natural love to the game, I want these kids to love the game. And he's like, who am I to stand in the way of a guy loving the game? And he's like, no, if they disrespect the other team or they disrespect their teammates, I'm going to pull their butt out and they're not going to play again. And I think that's and you've done this as well for my career. I know I've had you on my podcast and I've watched you. And my father is like this, and I have a great respect for men and women that age well, but also are open enough to look at and say, hey, the world is changing. And it's okay that it changes. And Tito is great at that. And he makes his players comfortable with being themselves.
Yes. Speaking of your father, did he not just have a significant numbered birthday recently?
Yes, he did. 70.
That's awesome.
70. It is awesome. And we took him to the Grand Canyon. We didn't run it, and my father-in-law is coming up. I won't give his age away, but he's close, 2 years away. And it's been really cool to have my father and father-in-law along. And aging is one of those. And I know we're talking baseball, but aging is one of those weird things. And I've been blessed, man, that I've got some sturdy men around me. The old men, as I call them. And then my dad, we gave my dad 3 kids. My sister is great. And my wife, they gave him 3 different desserts. He's a big dessert guy, but he takes care of himself. He's in really good shape. Had a coconut cake, a key lime pie, and a cheesecake. And my kids go, hey, you guys don't let us eat 3 pieces. And my dad said, hey, if you get to 70, you can have 3 small slices. But don't worry. When we get done with this phone call and the kids get done with their schoolwork, we're headed over to a tennis court. We got a pickleball tournament coming up today.
You got to work off some of that cake, my friend. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That is. Well, Tito, he is kept young by a young team. Last year, youngest team in baseball. And why were they so successful last year? Because they really it could have gone totally the other way.
And we thought they would. I'm going to be honest with you. Tito, the one thing Tito did as a broadcaster, he pulled us to the side the day before the season started. He said, hey, he goes, I'm going to tell you guys what I told the team. And JT, that's not usually how things work. But, the manager of the team doesn't usually say that. He goes, but I told these guys, we're going to be young. He said, we're going to be young. We're going to make mistakes. There are going to be times when we may look bad, but we're going to play hard. If you don't play hard and run hard, you're not going to play. And that settled in because they had just the right mix of Jose Ramirez, veteranness, of Ahmed Rosario, who has something to prove, and he had a guy like Jose really push him and tell him, you are good. You do deserve this. We do need you. And I think the effect of like the Josh Naylors of the team, even like a kid like Will Brennan, who grew up in Kansas City and went to a Kansas City game when he was a little kid, when Tito was in Boston, and he asked Tito for an autograph. Tito didn't give it to him. And these guys know they've grown up with Tito. They've grown up with Tito's teams playing in their background with their fathers, and they don't want to let Tito down. And Tito just made the rules real simple. I told you the rules, but the way the game was going to be played. He told them, we're not going to hit more home runs. We're not going to, we're not going to get outpaid, but we're going to play harder. We're going to play 27 outs, and I will give you every opportunity to win. And, really like anything else, you get a little bit more momentum and you believe in yourself. It takes you a long way. I did something with the owner of the team over at the City Club about a month and a half ago, and it was with Mr. Dolan, with Tito, and with Chris Antonetti. And a fan asked the panel and myself, what was the moment that you knew the team was going to be different last year? And I thought it was really amazing that Mr. Dolan said that it was a night in Chicago when Josh Naylor hit the 2 home runs late, and became infamous for running in the dugout, yelling and cussing at me and the camera, but made for great theater. And Paul Dolan said he woke up to it. So he fell asleep and he woke up and he said, and he goes, I just saw Josh yelling and screaming, and he goes, and I saw the score. And he said he looked at his wife and he said, "Hey, we're gonna be different this year."
Yeah.
And even in that moment, Tito, and this is why Tito is great, because the other thing Tito has taught me, and this is hard, and I try to tell this as much as I can. I was just talking to my son about his homework, is that Tito has this uncanny ability to enjoy the most out of the moment in today, and doesn't look back at what they did yesterday, doesn't worry about what's going to happen on Friday. And I know this because I've been on the planes, I've been on the buses, I've been a part of the win streak back in 17. I was a part of one in 16. And as national media is coming in and they're getting ready to make this American League record, they've got guys going on the the national morning shows are following them.
Yep.
And everybody's like, well, what's Tito like? And I'm like, he's the same every day. And it's a really difficult thing, right, JT, for all of us. Whether you go on a great run and you feel great, the next time you're going out for that long run, what you did yesterday is not going to help you get through that 12th mile, right? No matter how good or bad it may have been. And I think it's a hard thing for young people to learn that your success is great and you can learn from it, but it won't make you successful the next time.
Yeah.
And I've kind of learned that, like, hey, if you got a great report in the first inning, that doesn't do crap for you in the fifth. When you mess up one in the third, or if you stumble over a word in the eighth, that does nothing for me. I've learned that, JT. I really have.
Sure.
And that, and I've learned being around fans and being around kids, and the next day, oh man, that was a great walk off. Can't wait. Hope they do it again tonight. And 10 years ago, I'll be like, yeah, they're going to do it again. But I now know the momentum of baseball, much like life, hinges upon the guy with the ball in his hands at 7:05.
Yeah. That more than anything, you are absolutely right. What happens on that hill, how things flow from it, dictates how that ball game's going to go. Well, like a couple of years ago, Drake, for 2 year stretch, horrific times for Terry Francona. Physically, all that he dealt with, some life and death peril that was around him. Last year's fun with these kids and the enjoyment. Do you think that added a couple of years to this guy's life? Really?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
It was a game changer, JT. It was a game. I mean, he's got a lot of pride, right? And I remember I did an interview this time last year, and a certain person said to me, "Well, he's only coming back because he wants to walk off. He wants to have the Cleveland." And I'm like, the Cleveland, most wins as a manager award. He wants to win it the right way. I'm thinking, you don't get Tito. Like, that's not here. I'll give you a story from last year that was so awesome. And I think because I've been around him long enough, I caught it. And he even told me that later on. When they clinched in Texas, and I was able to sit close to him. And I've told you stories. There's sometimes where I'm 100 feet away from Tito, and he's looking down trying to figure out where all the laughing's coming from. And there's sometimes where I'm 4 feet away from him, and he knocks me in the back of the head when I put a number up that tells him how bad they've been. We've had both, right?
Right.
And in Texas last year, I was pretty close to him in their new ballpark. And usually around Tito's the pitching coach, and usually Mike Sarball and DeMarlo Hale. Usually DeMarlo Hale is his bench coach and pitching coach are usually right next to him. So we get into the ninth inning, and you're going to clinch, and there's a big league. And I'll never forget, I look over my shoulder, and every darn coach on the coaching staff has surrounded Tito. And so when we get the 27th out of the game, and Matt Underwood has this great call of talking about, the name change and being the youngest team in baseball and shocking the world. That's what's in my ear, right?
Yeah.
But I'm looking over, and Tito is so, and I'm glad I can tell this because most people don't pick up on these type of things and how brilliant he really is. He had told his whole coaching staff, get around me in the ninth inning. I want you guys all as close as me as you can be. Why did he say that? Because he knew the idiots like us would put the camera right on him when they clinched. And he said because of them, they carried him. They carried him through some of the hardest times of his life. They carried him in days where he didn't think he could be at the ballpark. They carried him at times he was worried about when he would have his next meal or when he would see his grandkids. And he felt like there was no way in the world in that moment when the Guardians had achieved what they had achieved in 2022 that he wanted the camera strictly on him. He wanted the families and friends of the Carl Willises, of the DeMarlo Hales, of the Sandy Alomars, of the Mike Sarbaughs, of the Chris Villekas, who was getting married, getting ready to get, didn't know if he was going to miss a playoff game. And Tito's going, you can miss the playoff game, go get married. He wanted them in spotlight, not Terry Francona. And if you go back now, and anybody that watches this and listens to this podcast, you are going to see highlights of the day that the team clinched last year. And you're never going to look at the video different when you see all those coaches surrounding Terry Francona. He didn't tell them why he wanted them around him. He just said in the ninth inning, everybody gather around me. And they did. Yeah. And the reason why is he wanted all of their families and their friends to know the importance of that they were to him. He wanted their faces, their smiles on camera, not just Terry Francona's.
That is a great way to look at it, Dre, because so often we look at, just the manager or just the star player, and you don't realize just so much else goes into the success of a team. Well, one of the big reasons for the team's success, no secret, Jose Ramirez agrees to the extension right as the season's getting underway last year. It kind of it put air under your wings, did it not?
Yes, absolutely. Man, I'm blessed, JT, and you know this, and I don't run from that, and I'm not afraid to say it out loud. But Jose Ramirez has been a great thing for me to be around and see. When I was around the Browns, I got to see a lot of first round picks that thought the world moved around them, and they made the room shake. And Jose Ramirez has been the complete opposite. It's funny, my older sister, who really is probably she's 6 years older than me, but man, she's like my best friend, and her and my wife are best friends. And my first trip that I made with the organization, with the Guardians, was in Houston, and at the time, my sister lived in the Dallas area, so it's 4 hours away. And without telling me, my wife had told her my itinerary, and I don't know if my wife was worried about me, probably, but she told my sister where I was at. My sister was like, well, is he excited? Whatever. I don't know what the conversation was. All I know is I landed in Houston, Texas. I came back to my hotel. I looked down at my phone, and my sister, Jennifer, said, hey, I'm 5 minutes away. Get dressed. I'm taking you to lunch. I'm going to take you to get some clothes, which was wow. And I tell that story because, we come back she took me shopping. She treated me like a little kid, like the little brother that I guess I was, a little snot-nosed brother that I felt like I was. And I was like, why is my sister coming to do this for me? And I love her for it. There's a little Dominican guy walked into the elevator. We held where we were trying to get to the elevator. And I'll be honest with you. And Jose Ramirez didn't know me at the time. He knew I was on the team flight, but I was just another guy. And he held the elevator. And my sister right away said, she picked up on it. She goes, wow, that was really sweet that he did that. And then he realized he couldn't speak English. And but we were able to say, thank you, gracias, move on, appreciate it. Hey, hope you have a good season. And he had a backpack on, and my sister looked at him. She goes, that was really nice of him. And I said, Jen, that kid has got all the talent in the world. He's about to sign his first contract. And I said, he's got enough money that he's going to change the world. His little world, the Dominican. Wow. I said that 9 years ago. And last night, my sister, because I have snippets of our documentary that's going to run on opening night of the home opener on Friday, April 7th.
April 7th. Yeah.
After the game on April 7th on Bally's TV or whatever the heck it'll be called by April 7th, we will be there. And there is a documentary that's been recorded and documented. I got to show my sister a little snippet of it last night. And she had a tear in her eyes. She looked at my dad and I, she said, you told me about this kid 9 years ago. And you said that he had the potential to be, she goes, and it's just unbelievable that, and because she came to batting practice yesterday and Jose looked at her, waved like they were best friends. And she just had a tear in her eye. She said, I'll be darned. You told me to watch this kid. And he was going to be something else. She goes, and all I remember was how courteous he was, how sweet he was. And I got to find out this January when I went to Bally, Dominican Republic.
Yes.
And it's something, and JT, you and I have had a lot of discussions, that I just want to tell people stories. I just want people to really understand who and what these guys are. I was able to go to Jose's home. I was able to see his parents, to see his grandfather, to see his wife, who was a lovely, lovely woman, who they see their little baby daughter, Isabella. They've got another child on the way that, knock on wood, that I believe is going to be Jose Jr. I don't want to get ahead of myself on that, but he is a very prideful man. His family means the world to him. He was working basically playing baseball, taking care of his family at the age of 12 or 13, playing baseball against grown men. that didn't always have the best wishes or thoughts for him and his well-being. And he's still playing to this day, as he told me, for his Isabella, for his wife, for his mom and dad to never have to worry again, and for the next generations of Ramirez's to never have to go through what he went through as a child. He's very religious, more religious than most people will ever know. And he's very much high, despite him not getting an education. He has a big, big field. And I was at his play ball event in Bally, Dominican Republic, on a field that he played on as a kid. They were glad. If you saw the fields he had to take ground balls off of, you would never, it was like, I cried. I took a video. The field that he played on as a kid has no fencing around it. Yeah. And I'll send you a picture afterwards. You can put it up with the podcast. And the field barely has grass on it. Yeah. And we couldn't even have the play ball of it because there was no way for us to secure the field. And I hate to say, but it was, there was no way to secure it or handle it. But his grandfather took us to the field. And I stood at the pitcher's mound, and I'm no sap. I don't cry very often, but I'm getting there as I get older. And I stood on the pitcher's mound, and I'll send you the video after. It might be the beginning of our documentary. And I took a video from the pitcher's mound to home plate, down third base, down first base, throughout the outfield. I had tears in my eyes, and I had the video, and I sent it to Terry Francona, and I sent it to my father. And I said, they would know. I said to both of them, I said, I will never question why Jose Ramirez runs so hard, plays so hard, and loves so hard. Yeah. It just and Terry Francona sent me a text message back immediately. He says it'll never make you question why these guys play the way they do and who they are. He goes, because most Americans will never have any idea what they've gone through to get where they were at. There was no running water in the neighborhood. But I can still hear the joy of the kids that were in that neighborhood. They all ran up to us, and the one kid saw I had a Cleveland Guardians hat on, and I pointed to it, and I said, Jose Ramirez, and he smiled. He said, my favorite. Then he asked for the hat. They all wanted Cleveland, and we gave him to him. There was one little girl who was on a scooter, and she didn't have one of her flip-flops was broken. We went and bought her new flip-flops, but on the scooter, it was a scooter that Jose Ramirez had given out for their Christmas time giveaway. Wow. And it was like her favorite thing. He is a godsend to that part of the Dominican Republic. It is a rural area of the Dominican Republic. It's not somewhere where you see vacations taken. And he told me years ago when I said, I want to know where I remember early on in his career, I go, I want to see where you're from, man. And he looked at me and goes, nobody comes to Bally. Wow. So when I knocked on that door that January morning, and I looked, he goes, you not lie, you here. Oh my gosh. And it gave me goosebumps. So I can't wait till people see it.
It gives me goosebumps as well. And remind me when we come back from the break, my Julio Franco story that's very similar to that. We're going to take a break here and come back with the great Andre Knott on the Guardians of the Land MLB podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
So, Andre, it's 1995-96. It's the winter. We are down in the Dominican Republic, and we are checking up on the guys that played for the Indians. Jose Mesa, Tony Perez. We went to where Manny was born, Manny Ramirez. Wow. And then I didn't have it confirmed with him, but Julio Franco, whom I covered in the first iteration of his stay as an Indian, was coming back to sign with the Indians and play in the 1996 season. He was already 55 years old or whatever he was. I mean, Julio Franco played forever. And I remember same kind of a scenario. We found where he lived. Literally, I spoke some Spanish, asked around. A guy took us there and was our guide for the day. And we popped into this home. And when he looked at me and he, as if he had seen a ghost, and he was so overjoyed that we took the time to come and see him that he had to take us everywhere. Took us to his games, took us to the Little League field, just like you described with Jose Ramirez. And all I saw was just the genuine, first of all, the warmest people on earth, but the genuine love that these people have for the game of baseball and the connection that game has with generation after generation. Julian Tavares took Mark Schrader, my colleague, to visit the man that signed him out of the impoverished area that he was from. And this man was like God to their family, and they were all emotional, breaking down. It's a beautiful place on earth. The people take to that game in such a wonderful way, and they want to do good for that area. So I can see why Jose Ramirez is the heartfelt kind of guy that he is. And my next subject that I want to get to you about is Oscar Gonzalez. He's a kid from the Dominican. What makes him so special? And why do you think the sky is the limit for him?
He's a wild card of the season. He really is. And I hate to put that much pressure on like someone so young and someone a year ago at this time, but none of us in Cleveland really knew who the heck he was. And I think when you know his story, and I got to tell a little bit of it, we're going to see little bits and pieces of it over the first month of the season, is that the pandemic, no one, we're 3 years removed, right? And
yes,
we all have memories of what 2020 had. I don't think we're all the way back to normal. Well, everybody has their feelings about that. It's not so much that, but everybody's got a story, right? How 2020 affected us or what it did to our lives. And I think with Oscar Gonzalez and a lot of baseball players, and I know baseball is just the kind of, as our old friend Casey Comey used to say, the toy box of our lives. Yes. And it was said so perfectly. I think with Oscar, he wasn't a high draft pick. Wasn't thought of really highly. When he was drafted or when he was signed, he didn't have the body that he has today. They was thought of as my mom or dad would say nicely. They thought of him as big boned, and he's worked his butt off to get a great body. He comes from a great family because I think, and it's a little bit like the Jose story and getting to know his family, because he had family that believed in him. And family that kind of said to him, you can go play the ball game, but get an education. Yeah. And I tell that part because the Guardians have done a great job. I was able also to visit their academy. And it's one of the only teams that has a Dominican academy. And part of it has a school in it that teaches English, but also prepares these kids for if baseball doesn't work out. As a matter of fact, when they were down in Dominican, they had me talk to a class. And my whole point of the class that I kind of talked to was that by learning a second language, and my wife's all over me right now to learn more Spanish. And it's my new goal in the next year and a half to be able to speak to these players, because I want to give them the respect and look them in the eye and give them the respect of what they're trying to do for us. You know, there's so many of these kids that are trying to learn English, but the point that they had me kind of tell them that if you don't become the next shortstop of the Cleveland Guardians, but you learn the language, there's so many more opportunities suddenly for your life to be able to coach, to be able to do radio, television, clinics, to be able to come to, like our great guy, Augie Rivera, who's our translator now. And he also coaches and helps. He's got this great role that he's kind of carved out. He's given opportunities to more kids like it. He's from Colombia. But like when he does that, though, that's giving more opportunities to more of these guys that, like, if you just can take, and the Guardians are doing a great job. And it was one of the things that Ahmed Rosario's family told me, Oscar Gonzalez's family told me. They're like, we love the Guardians organization, not just because they've signed our kids or not because our kids play for them, but because they're giving them an education. So I'm saying that because Oscar Gonzalez comes from a family. He has two brothers that are teachers. One of his brothers teaches in an elementary school less than 4 blocks away from the home that his parents live in. He's got 2 sisters that are nurses. Education on the wall in Oscar Gonzalez's parents' house is the first thing you see. They're both military people, his mother and father. First thing you walk in to see is diplomas of sister, brother. and they had a spot on the wall for Oscars. And just this past Saturday here in Dominican, they had their graduation class, and Oscar Gonzalez had a smile on his face from ear to ear that was beautiful. So that's the first thing. The second thing is God gave him some pure ability that not many get, especially at the size he's at. I've told you a little bit that my partner on television, Rick Manning, who I love dearly and I've learned so much from, and it's been a blessing in all the jobs I've had. I've always had the former player that's kind of took me under their wing and truly treated me as a teammate, as a peer, but also as a friend. Whether it be Doug Deacon or Rick Manning, heck, Jim Jones, who I've never worked with, but Jim Jones is someone that I know I can call, and he can break down a basketball play for me better than anyone else. Rick Manning said after 2 or 3 games of watching Oscar Gonzalez, he said, "Hey, rip up all those reports. Stop listening to those nerds that write those in those papers." He goes, "This kid can play." he goes, "This kid's got some innate talent that we can't." That he goes, "I don't need to see. He hits the ball hard. He throws the ball hard. He runs hard." Raw is the word that you will hear a lot. I had a scout in the Dominican who said something that was almost sacrilegious. And I'm going to get in trouble for it, but the scout said it, and I feel like I can say it. He has a lot of the same skill set as one Vladimir Guerrero, who we watched become, a guy that hit a home run off a ball that skipped coming to the plate. He has the same type of raw power, same type of raw energy, and he's got the perfect, peer next to him. Or as I've just said, sometimes when you have the right adults in the room around you to help you grow, it helps you grow to places you've never gone before. And Jose Ramirez has it. Anywhere Jose goes during the baseball season, Oscar Gonzalez will be right behind him, following along, saying, "Yes, Jose." Ahmed Rosario and Jose did that with him. We do extra batting practice, extra this, extra that. And I got to say, the one thing I've learned is like you go to enough batting practices when you do the job that I do that you don't get blown away by seeing runs at 4 o'clock, right? Like one of the big league things they always say is, "Man, that dude is the best 4 o'clock hitter I've ever seen." Kids at home, you never want to be a 4 o'clock home run hitter, all right? That means you don't do anything at 7 o'clock. But Oscar Gonzalez, if you ever get a chance to see batting practice, I remember we were in San Diego last year, and I've learned, traveling with the guys I learned with, you don't ooh and ah when a guy hits a home run in spring, in batting practice. But JT, we were in San Diego last year before a day game, and I'm up in the booth and we're eating lunch, and we're kidding each other like we always do. And Rick Manning goes, "Holy smokes! He just hit the ball out of the ballpark to center field. Nobody does that."
So much of a guy that delivered was just absolutely insane, Andre. Absolutely insane. Let's switch our attention to this season, my friend. 2023. Okay. Well, I still got you on with me, and I appreciate your patience with me. Obviously, so many things went well last year. Last at bat victories, the large amount of those, all those infield hits. What are you expecting in 2023, Dre?
Well, I asked Josh Naylor this the other day because Josh Naylor he said that he had I got a great sit down with him. He said, our team was so full last year because it was like little leagues. He's like, we came to the ballpark, we hung out, we go out and play hard, get dirty, then we'd hang out and eat dinner together. And, and I think I used the word organic, and like that doesn't always happen. And I've used other terms and you've heard me say it, and I can say it a little bit cleaner down here. But they had a cool thing where it wasn't about contracts, it wasn't about money, it wasn't about girls, it was that they loved each other. They got to find that again. And it's not, and that doesn't mean, and look, let's be honest, that doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah, can't snap your finger.
Yeah, you don't, exactly. But because you have so many of the same leaders back, so many good people, and because you have Jose Ramirez that doesn't take any crap, and Josh Naylor that doesn't take any crap, I love what the Guardians did. They went out and they got 2 guys that aren't overwhelmed that they're here, that don't have to feel like they have to overperform and be something that they're not. And I'd say that Mike Zunino and Josh Bell. By bringing in Josh Bell, it takes a lot of pressure off the last guy we were talking about. If you don't bring Josh Bell in and don't put someone in the middle of the lineup, if you're telling Oscar Gonzalez with less than 400 in Major League at bats, you got to be in the middle of the lineup and hit 40 and hit the drive in 100. Instead, a little bit like the 90s, you're telling Oscar Gonzalez and my spark plug of the team, Andres Jimenez, you're telling both those kids they don't have to hit 4th and 5th. Just be who you were last year, hitting 6th and 7th. A little bit like we saw with Manny Ramirez and Jim Thome. And I think that to me means Tito's going to tell them to play the same way, like their hair is on fire. He's going to tell them, hey, 1st and 3rd is still the most important thing that we do. Running down first base is still the most important thing we can do. But what also will happen, hopefully, if Mike Zunino can get a little bit of those strokes from 2019 where he hit 30 plus, and Josh Bell can go back to being, heck, he was an all-star at Progressive Field just a couple of years ago and had a great first half with Washington last year. And now he's basically home because his wife's from the Youngstown area. They've got a little baby coming in, another little baby coming in June. He's so excited because he said he just signed for 20, he's making 20-something million. He's excited because he doesn't have to pay for babysitting. I get it. But I think that takes the pressure off JT to let these kids keep being kids and let the adults in the room, Jose, Josh Bell, Mike Zunino, Josh Naylor, let them be the big boys and drive the ball out of the ballpark and let them Ed Rosarios and Stephen Kwans. I think they have a chance to be a better offense this year. I'll say that. The bullpen I'm worried about early, but the offense I think it's going to be better is what I would say.
And you were mentioning when we were chatting earlier, I mean, that bullpen's going to kind of work itself out as it ramps up towards Class A, and how it always seems to work out with this team and how they handle getting pitchers ready for Major League Baseball.
Yes. Last year it came together so well. And I've told you earlier, and I mean this, by the end of the year, Trevor Stephan and Sam Hinges were, look, no one's Emmanuel Clase. But by the sixth inning, the Guardians made it a 6-inning game last year. And when you got starting pitching like they have, that means it's no fun playing. And I've had, and there was somebody that was with the White Sox, or somebody just said this to me. And he said, he goes, you know what kills us? He goes, they had Kluber and Carrasco and Mike Clevenger. And we all thought to ourselves, when they get rid of those guys, we're going to kick their butt. He goes, then all of a sudden, he goes, there's Bieber and Bauer, and then there's Plesac, and Savali's throwing curveballs. And the guy, I can't remember the player that told us. Yeah, McKenzie. And he goes, this ain't fair. He goes, they've had four number one and number twos back to back to back to back. If they can make it a 7-inning game, and I'll go to my grave saying this, there is no one better. And I know we started on Terry Francona, but I got to say this. If you really look at baseball, yes, him and Tony La Russa, kids, don't look at what Tony La Russa did last year, sleep with the wheel. But if you go back to what he did in the 80s and the 90s with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Oakland Athletics, making Dennis Eckersley a household name as a closer and kind of using bullpens the way that they did. I know Earl Weaver had his way back, when the Orioles ran. There's been nobody better. To me, since Terry Francona took his job with the Boston Red Sox, and you think of the Daniel Bards and go to the Papelbons, then you think of the names, the bullpen names that made names, and the Andrew Millers of the world, the Cody Allens. That is what Tito does better than anybody else in this world, is finding bullpen arms and using them correctly. He's changed how playoff games are played now, if you look at it, because of what he did with Andrew Miller in 16. I say all of that because Tito will find a way in these first couple of months. The first couple of months may be tough, but if he can get Sam Hinges healthy and keep him healthy, Trevor Stephan healthy, and James Carrick healthy with Clase, those arms right there and how Tito will use them. And that's the goal. Get to October with healthy arms of those four names I said. You can mix in Sandlin, who's got a great arm. They've got a kid named Tim Herron. Watch out for a big lefty that throws 96, 97. Still not a done project. But if they get him right, and they have two lefties that are throwing 97 plus with nasty sliders, nasty curveballs, as much as we like talking offense, the games will be won because of the bullpen that they're piecing together right now.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, Dre. Really am. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for being such a great first guest to talk about the readiness of this team, about Jose, about Tito, and just about the fun it is covering this team, because it's fun to watch and play. And, oh, by the way, Dre, we just went 39 minutes, and that's 38 more than Zach gives you. How about that?
And make sure, you know what? I'm going to make sure he hears that. At some point in time, you podcast listeners, before these 10 days or before March 31st or whatever the season starts, there will be a A to Z podcast where we speak more than 1 minute on baseball. Trust me, he's already made fun of my radio. He's already made fun of my radio appearance that I've made today. He goes, man, I got all the baseball I need now. Let's talk about something else.
Well, I know it's all in fun, but I hope that we can visit somewhat frequently or infrequently as the season goes on, because your insights are super valuable. We love watching you on the air, and so much to the team's coverage. So being my first guest, I don't know if that gets you a booby prize. You can't redeem it at Walmart or anything like that. But thanks very much, Dre. It was a pleasure having you on.
JT, I'll do anything for you. My number is always open for you. I'm so happy that this podcast is going to have you upon it and on it. I'm always willing to come on. And when we get done, I'm going to go over to Blockbuster and see if I can redeem that coupon.
All right, buddy. Have a good day. Thanks again, Dre.
Take care. You got it, JT. Appreciate you.
Dre, thank you so very much, buddy. Yeah. God,
you got it, man.
You're number one all-star. I appreciate you, buddy. I'll talk to you.
I appreciate you too.
Okay.
All right, JT.
Thanks,
have a great day. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Thanks so much to Andre Knott. And I have said it countless times. I don't think that there's a sideline and or dugout reporter, you name the sport, that has a better rapport with the athletes than Mr. Andre Knott. And we look forward to Andre's work all season long. He'll pop on here occasionally as he can give us some more insight into Guardians baseball. And what you might not know about Andre is, well, you need a full hand to count his Emmy Awards. He has won 5 Emmy Awards for his coverage of Cleveland, Ohio sports. He was an all-Ohio running back at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary, and he was a 4-time letter winner playing baseball at that high school. So the Guardians, they are in the spring training home stretch. So far as I record this close to the episode, Shane Bieber has allowed 3 runs in 16 2/3 innings over 4 starts this preseason. All good on that front. The season begins with 4 in Seattle starting at 10:10 p.m. Thursday night, March the 30th. After the Seattle swing of 4 games, it's 3 affairs against Oakland before the scheduled home opener, 4:10 p.m. Friday, April the 7th, against the Mariners at Progressive Field. Over the course of the season, I'll have features pinpointing where some of the former Cleveland baseball stars are nowadays, how they're doing. We'll turn our attention to future Guardian stars catching up with the kids down in the proverbial farm. And another feature will be called Drilling Down. We'll take an aspect of the team's performance and kind of examine the numbers, get underneath the covers, if you will. Any good trends, or is there a trend to be concerned with? I invite you to tweet at me. I'm at John Telich 8 on Twitter. And, of course, the Guardians Land, that's where you can find us on Twitter with your input. And I look forward to it if you have any concerns. In fact, let's look at the possible effects of the pitch clock that Andre Knott alluded to during our interview. He said, your pitchers will have to be in great shape to throw as many pitches as they will with very little rest. It will be no small adjustment. You might have to be an Ironman triathlete to be a major league pitcher. You won't be able to throw to first base to gather yourself or even step off the mound. Terry Francona said earlier this spring, according to some reporting by Paul Hoynes of Cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer, he said, quote, at some point, you might just have to give the guy a ball. It's better than throwing something that goes 800 feet, end quote. All in all, it promises to be an eventful and exciting season as the Guardians defend their American League Central title. It won't be long before they play the first of 162 games, and we will be along for the ride, checking in with coverage on the Guardians of the Land MLB podcast. First one's in the books, gang. This is John Telich. We'll see you soon, and thanks for listening.